So now let's do the camera. And if you saw my review, of this frame, you know that I put these plates on upside down. This little arc here is for the camera's retention screw, if it lines up with it, which I'm not sure it will, but oh well, whatever. Presumably it will. I guess it's not going to. Maybe it doesn't work so good on this camera. Well, anyway, it's for the retention screw. Sure doesn't look like that's going to line up, does it? I wonder if I've screwed it up again. I don't think so. Let's go ahead and install the camera on these side plates. Now, the side plates have a cutout here for presumably the HS1177 has a little bit of a nub sticking out, and presumably that's what this is for. This is the RunCam Eagle 4.3 version. I'm going to be giving this a try. I tried the 16.9 version. Well, you can watch my review if you want to hear more about it. This will be my first try of the 4.3 one. And I have to figure out how it's going to go here. I really like that RunCam gives you hex thread screws instead of Phillips, and they give you all the hardware to go with it. It's really nice. The technique I'm going to use here is I'm going to put a washer, and then I'm going to set that down inside the beveled part. And I'm going to put a little rubber O-ring there, and that may help the camera. That may help hold the camera in place a little bit if it's not retained in any other way. We'll see how well it works. I also really, I also like that RunCam doesn't make you use self-tapping screws here. They're actual proper screws, metal machine screws or whatever, and they just go nicely into the camera without you having to force them in like you have to do the first time you do a self-tapping screw, which I always have the hardest time getting it to do that. Okay, and then I left myself some extra wire here because, again, it's a pretty roomy frame, so why make your life harder? And I'm just going to give it some twists to take up enough of the slack that it's not getting into the props or anything like that. And we'll just set that down in there. Now, I'm concerned that my addition of those M3 O-rings may have made it too wide. I'm not sure that's going to actually work. It's not seating well. No, it's too wide. Yeah, that's no good there. That's not going to fly. We're gonna have to come up with something different. Oh well. It was at this point that my cell phone started giving me fits and refusing to record. So I have a photo for you here of what I ended up doing. I still use the O-ring because the layout of the Eagle is such that I can't use the locking screw that's intended to be used with the mounting bracket. The holes don't line up. So the only way to hold it in place is with this O-ring. Those are the approaches you could take, but the O-ring is a good approach. What I did is I turned the plate around and I seated the O-ring in the little milled out cutout, which worked so darn well. That actually might be what the designer intended, and I just only now figured it out. So if that's the case, then credit to the designer. And if it's not the case, then credit to me for thinking of it. Ha ha ha. Anyway, this photo shows basically how it went. A screw comes in from the outside on the flat side of the plate. The O-ring seats into the little recess, and that gives the camera just enough room to actually fit. Okay, so that's the camera done. The RunCam Swift does not, I mean, even, it's not fit in there quite perfectly. I'm going to see how the top plate goes on. I think it's going to work, but I wonder if this was designed for a slightly narrower camera and not the RunCam Swift. It's what I've got, so it's what I'm going to use, but it is an interesting thought to have. Now, I've already taken the case off the receiver with the expectation that I would be installing it, you know, like in a much tighter build, like naked. So I'm going to just cover it with this self-fusing silicone to keep it from shorting against anything or anything like that. That'll go in there, and then I'll just I'll kind of wrap it like that. That seems good. It'll also have the effect of holding that wire in too, so that's nice. Okay, I'll use some foam tape on the bottom to keep that from making any contact, so that'll be fine. I think what's going to make the most sense, we need the button and the LED on the outside, so it's going to be like that, I suppose. Some freaking super glue and hold that in. I think I'm going to just do that after the frame is put together, honestly. We've got this, which is for, yeah, that's for that. Okay, I think we're ready to put the top on. Okay, so the screws are all on the top. I was having a little trouble getting the top on, but I just had it slightly misaligned. The camera plates did go in. It's holding the camera quite snugly, so perhaps that's intentional. I don't know. It doesn't seem like the Swift is the best fit here, and I gotta wonder if I did something wrong. The camera is sitting a little low. It looks like it has a super ridiculous amount of up tilt. I guess that's good because it does mean that the camera is behind the front here, so it's well protected. The video transmitter comes straight out the back there, and I'm going to have to find a way to sort of gracefully and neatly keep this from getting into the props. I'll probably just tuck it in here and retain it against that bulkhead. Maybe I'll even unscrew it and give it a few more twists to sort of spiral it up a little bit. I'll figure that out. Whatever you do, don't just like heat shrink it and kink it. It needs to not have any kinks or it won't work right. So that's bad. That would be bad. And then as far as the receiver goes, I think it's important that you be careful that the pins don't touch the standoff here, because one of these pins has 5 volts on it, doesn't it? And the frame is grounded through the SMA connector. So if one of these pins touches that standoff, you are going to short. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to put some foam tape, a couple pieces of foam tape on the underside there, and then I'm going to just lay that up against the standoff so that it's sandwiched there. And then I'll use a little bit of zip tie to hold this in place. Okay, this one is getting close to done building anyway. It's all buttoned up. Here's the issues that I've dealt with and how I've dealt with them. For mounting the ESCs on the arms, the creator of the frame said that he really kind of sees it more often used with a 4-in-1 ESC, in which case the ESC is right in here, and you can see we've got plenty of room here to fit it in thanks to the Kombini and the OSD/video transmitter board. But I didn't go that way, and so you can't zip tie because it'll slide down the arms, and you can't use tape because it'll look like crap. Not on this frame, I don't think. So I've gone with a little bit of foam tape on the underneath to hold it in place. That'll keep the ESC from sliding around, and then a zip tie to just hold everything together. That's what I've done there. It's okay. I wish I had left myself a little more slack on some of these wires, because some of them are really pretty snug right now, and I don't like them being under tension like that. When the whole frame is going to get stressed, something's going to get pulled and it's not going to be good. So yeah, always leave yourself a little more slack than you think you're going to need, because you're going to be sorry if you don't. See, look how happy this one is. There's plenty of wire there. That's great. There's no harm in that. But some of these other ones are pretty snug. So there you go. Here's how I've mounted the receiver. A couple of zip ties around the that vertical plate, and a little piece of foam tape underneath here. You can see to keep it from making any contact with the standoff right there. So that's how I did that. There's 2 holes in the top of the frame, which they're cut in a little bit of a T shape, which suggests to me that they're intended for the antennas. That's a normal place for it to be. That's why I'm going to do that. Just with some zip ties, you just pass a zip tie through here, you heat shrink the antenna to the zip tie, bing, bang, bong, you're done. As far as the antennas go, I always make a little loop like this and then pass them out. And I'm going to keep them as short as I can. There's no, well, I don't want too much slack in here to get into the props, but I'm going to keep them reasonably short. They don't need to be super long in getting into the props. In fact, perhaps I'll even do a double loop something. I don't, but ideally you want it just long enough that it protrudes out the top there and no longer to be sticking out and getting in the props. So I got to put the XT60 on, of course. I'm not going to show you that. That's really basic. I'm sure you can do that. And the pigtail for the video transmitter, you can see that I've just kind of passed it underneath these zip ties here. And there's enough slack in those zip ties. They don't have to be super snug. They're just holding this receiver in place. It's not going anywhere. So they're not super snug. It's just kind of tucked up in there, but it's not actually getting pinched or anything, and that's really critical. Another note regarding the receiver, I've seen copters drop out of the air because something bumped up against the bind button. If something bumps against the bind button when you're flying, you will drop out of the air. So watch this zip tie. Don't let that zip tie get over there where it could push the button. In flight, you will crash. Your copter will stop responding, and that'll be that. And there you go. That is, it's not quite the finished build. I'll show you the finished build, but this is the last I'm going to show you of the actual build process, because everything that's left to do is really pretty basic, and as soon as you see it done, it'll be pretty obvious how I did it. So that's going to be the end of this video. Thanks for watching. I've had fun putting this frame together. I've actually a little stressed out by, you know, the color scheme, like this black and gold bling color scheme, but then we put red motors on it. Oh no, that doesn't match. And then we've got this red and black wiring, and that doesn't match. Oh no. This is the first copter where I've ever kind of wanted to put wire loom on, just to make the colors match, but that's just not how I build copters. I just don't. It's going to get beat to heck in 2 weeks. It's going to be covered in dirt and look like crap. So that's not how I build them. I'm going to build them to fly them, not to look good. But this is the first one where I've been tempted. So there you go. Oh, yeah, I passed this out the back here. It's actually supposed to be for an LED, but I decided to use it this way since I don't have LEDs. See, that's going to keep that centered right there. Perfect. And also, very important, I put some strain relief on there. A zip tie here for strain relief. Always strain relief your power wire so that it doesn't tug on your nice expensive Kombini. Okay, anyway, there you go. There it is. That is the Rampage, the Skull and Drones Rampage. Furiuos FPV Kombini flight controller. RunCam Eagle 4.3 camera. Really excited to see if the quality of the 4.3 is better than the quality of the 16.9. And then Emax red bottom motors, of course, and ZTW flash BLHeli-S ESCs 30 amp. So there's the copter. Thanks for watching. Happy flying.